Okay. All right. This is Irvin Music Studio's weekly Wednesday 8 to 10 live stream. It's a working title.
Okay.
Yeah, feel free to brainstorm it with me. I'm Sam Irvin, and we're in Asheville, North Carolina. And I'm here with Franklin Keel, a cellist and a very busy cellist who's in several projects in town, including what order to go in? Upland Drive, I feel like, and
Yes.
The Opal String Quartet, the Asheville Symphony, and oh no, what's the last one? Oh, Sirius B.
Serious B.
Mm-hmm. And are you still, or weren't you recently a director of like a like a high school orchestra?
Yeah, I've done some orchestra directing at Hendersonville High School and East Henderson High, Flat Rock Middle, and then I'm currently at Asheville High and Asheville Middle Schools.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
getting ready to start my second year there. Yay!
Nice. Yeah, congrats. That's a
Thank you.
huge position. That's really cool. Where are you from?
I am originally from Concord, North Carolina, and moved to Asheville in sixth grade. So,
Okay.
when you know, informally, I usually just say, "Oh, I'm from Asheville."
Right, yeah.
um, but yeah, mostly from here. I went to AC Reynolds High School and spent a lot of my adolescence here.
Right. The
Yeah,
formative years.
yeah, the formative years. There's the word, term, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
phraseology. Um, we can discuss what connotes a phrase or a term for longer if you want,
we could.
but let's not.
I think there are more important things to talk about.
I think so, yeah. uh, I'm from Brevard. I don't know if you know that. So
Cool.
pretty close. I came to Asheville for college in 2009. It
Okay.
was a while ago,
Okay.
at this point.
So did
So
you ever Brevard High?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
hmm
Wow.
My band director was Mr. Franklin,
Yeah.
although he's not there anymore.
Nope, he's not.
No.
Um,
Yeah, so did you go to college here or did you go away?
I went to the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York for
Oh.
my undergrad degree.
hmm
I studied with Pamela Frame and David Ying, and just amazing people at that school. It was just an overwhelming experience from the musical end of things.
That's
And living in
huge.
Rochester was a pretty overwhelming experience itself.
Right, yeah.
And then I also went to Appalachian State for a teaching certificate and most of the work towards a Master of Music, although I didn't finish it.
hmm
Yeah, I got the teaching certificate, and my wife at the time was pregnant with our first kid, and that was that. Our first kid, our only kid.
Okay, gotcha. I was gonna ask. I didn't know you
My
had a
first
kid.
kid. I have two and another one on the way.
Hey, oh,
Yay!
congrats, man.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. I saw the son. You have a son,
Hmm.
right? When I was looking for a
A
good picture
daughter.
of you. And a daughter?
Yeah. Oh, I have two daughters.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And what's on the way? Or
A boy.
presumably. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Um, okay, cool.
Yeah. It's awesome.
That's a big house. Thanks for taking the time to come be on the live stream. I'm sure you're super
Oh
busy
yeah,
all
yeah.
the time.
It's a busy time. We're getting ready, and um, yeah, the summertime is all about getting ready. I think getting ready for baby, getting ready for year two, trying to get a system of sort of performances kind of going before things start to get crazy again and when school starts.
Yeah, that's got to be limiting, I guess. Do you have to, like these groups that you're playing in, do you have to like create boundaries and limitations for when the school year starts or
Um,
expectations for when the baby arrives or
I mean, generally, it's just trying to get as much of the ducks in a row as possible before the school year gets going. Um, and that way I can protect the time that I commit to with them a little bit more.
Mhm.
Um, the wild card I think is whenever the baby decides it wants to show up.
Yeah.
But aside from that, there's there's a lot of really exciting things coming, I hope, for the school. Just to get as we're sort of coming out of the pandemic, and performing for the community again. It's there's a lot of things. I mean, I can't imagine like trying to learn how to play a string instrument virtually. Like virtual lessons was something that I did with students who had already sort of been established. Um, but I mean, trying to get somebody started and not be able to like sort of check physically check for tension in the hands is sounds like a daunting experience, and sounds like a daunting experience for the students as well. It's just like, well, I see that now, I have to like, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
But here they are coming back into things, and we're starting to, like, we're rehearsing as a group every day, and it's just nice to be back in that flow and to start performing for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all felt like we were gonna have that flow last summer. It feels a little bit more like that this summer, but I mean, we're still wearing masks.
Right.
Still like a little trepidatious, at least I am. Um,
I think this is like the first surge that I'm just going out and everybody's just sort of like whatever, you know.
mhm.
And it's hard to watch, but I guess we're just gonna kind of see how this lands
Yeah, some parts of it
medically.
are tricky. I had a guitar student today tell me that they had an exposure, and I'm like, well, how seriously do I take that now? They weren't here. We decided to do their lesson
Right,
virtually.
right, right.
Um, but I had COVID like a month ago, and so I still feel pretty good. But now there are all these. I still feel resilient, or like my immune system is geared up to fight it.
Yeah,
But with all these variants and stuff, I guess I'm starting, hearing stories about people getting it twice in a row, like in a month or
yeah.
something like that.
It
So
kind of keeps changing. That was sort of a thing with it hit all of the late show hosts. I watch a lot of them on YouTube. I'll check out the monologues.
yeah,
As
I'm a
part of
big
my like
Seth Meyers
morning
guy.
routine is just a little bit of like late show comedy the next morning.
Hmm.
But there was like I think there were two or three of them that got it, and then they were out again, like a week or two later.
Oh yeah.
Like they got it and they were out for a while, and then they came back and then they were out for a while again. Um, and I don't know if that was separate variants or just like what that particular variant is deciding to do this time.
Yeah, or you could overdo it. I don't know how demanding that job is. I don't know. You're under hot lights and whatever. The stress is on, but I
Just a
overdid it for
relapse.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I like I go like swim laps in the morning,
Yeah.
and I do like miles, typically a mile a day. And so like a week, or my 10 days were up, and I just like started going back to it like as hard as I could and just wiped myself out. So
Yeah.
I had to take like another week off after that week of getting back into it. So the momentum hurts, like that. I did miss 2 gigs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, here, let me check and make sure that our audio is coming through.
Okay.
So the momentum hurts,
Oh,
crystal
like
clear.
that. Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
killing.
Although I heard myself say the momentum hurts, but what I meant to say was the lack of momentum. The
Yeah, yeah,
interruption
yeah.
of momentum
Right.
hurts. Yeah.
Right. Oh man. Yeah.
So, but you're back at it. I went into
Yeah.
the negatives, but
In
you're.
in a lot of ways, like it never really stopped for me. When it got to a point where I had to like start looking for work outside of music for the first time in like 20 years, I think. Um,
Well, what'd you do?
I went into food service. I got a job at the local joint, and I'm taking shifts there over the summer, just like filling in and just you know try not to burn through the summer money.
Yeah, right.
um, so like, and it's so I forgot how much fun it was. It was something that I did when I was in college too. Like, just got a job at the grease joint and worked the grill, and the dinner rush is just it's fun, I guess. Um,
Overstimulating for sure.
yeah, 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 a lot. Um, And I did that for a little while, and then I shifted over to whole, and that was amazing.
I love whole.
Whole, I mean, it's so good. It's
Fried
so good.
donuts.
Um,
Yeah.
but it was like the same folks, and they had a really good sort of pod setup that was safe, and everybody was masked, and there wasn't any issues around that. And that was a really great fit for me. And then the teaching job came up, and I jumped into that.
Oh,
And that sort
that's
of
great.
as things were picking up. But with even with both of the food service jobs, there was like a lot of time left over to practice and keep everything going musically. And that was sort of a key help with that kind of work. But like even before that, it was just kind of like I got a cello playing routine going, and I tried to set up some online things, but it was just there were equipment issues, there were like organizational things that had a lot of extra steps. It was
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of crazy, and I'm terrible at organizing to begin with, like
Yeah.
I've always kind of been the guy that prefers to just be the one that shows up at a gig with my music prepared, which is one thing that I really like about the Asheville Symphony. Like it's a
Oh
really
yeah.
well run organization. Everything's just really like we get our music, I prepare it, we show up for the performances and the rehearsals, and
Tell me
it's
about
very
that
cut and dry.
timeline because I haven't had anybody else from the symphony on. So how when do you get the music, and then how long until the first rehearsal? How many rehearsals are there, and then what does the
So we
performance look
we
like?
we tend to get the music 3 to 4 weeks before the first rehearsal.
Hmm.
And a lot of that stuff's standard though, like we've played a lot of it before. I mean, unless they bring a new piece to the table, which is always great. And a lot of the stuff, there's like recordings, and there's the online sheet music database, IMSLP. So like if something we know is coming up that we know is going to be tricky, we can access the music as we need to beforehand.
Oh, okay.
So there's like plenty of time to prepare stuff, but we usually get the music itself with all the bowings in it and all that kind of stuff 3 to 4 weeks before the first rehearsal. And then we rehearse the week of the show. So it's like an evening thing the week of, and then we give the performance on Saturday night, typically.
Okay. Gotcha. That's definitely doable. Yeah, it doesn't take up too much time. Somebody told me that it pays like $100 a session. Is that right? For like
Ish.
a rehearsal?
It depends on what your job is. Principal players get paid more than section players.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think I don't necessarily want to get into details about all of that stuff. I don't know
Oh, sure,
what
yeah.
it's about, but I mean,
That's
like that's
gauche. I shouldn't
I'd
have
I'd
brought it up.
say I'd say that's sort of standard though. Like I bet that's the average.
Like the SAG rate
Yeah. Well, I
equivalent or
think that's
whatever.
like that's where it sort of sits. I think people are getting, if they're not getting that, they're getting pretty close to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's cool. I don't get to play trumpet very much, but that's my secondary instrument. And I would love to do some sort of like community orchestra or something like that, but it's difficult to carve out that time in my
Right.
life.
Right.
Carving out Wednesdays for this live stream is supposed to uh, is to provide myself some like creative outlet because a lot of times I'm playing weddings and going and
Yeah.
playing cocktail hours and doing the standards for that sort of stuff.
The hustle.
Yeah.
Rocking that hustle.
With solo guitar, it's a little bit more freeing. Sometimes I play the gigs where, I'm playing, Beatles and Bob Dylan and that sort of stuff, the Elvis tunes. But sometimes I do get people who have an appreciation for the old classical stuff, like Giuliani or Soar or Carcassi, and that sort
Okay.
of like deep repertoire. So that's what I'm like practicing in the mornings
Oh, that's
most of the
great.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that older classical guitar stuff, but it's not like Moog weird sounds. Like
Right.
I've been listening to Stereolab a lot. Have you listened to this band?
I don't think so.
Oh, they're so weird and cool, and
Excellent.
yeah, definitely. They don't need a shout out because they're a huge band, but it's difficult to even understand how they're making some of the noises that they're making, because
Yeah.
their sound design just goes like that deep,
Oh, that's fantastic.
that many like instruments happening. So I'm excited about our jam later. Hopefully we can get your cello sounding really weird, and
It's possible.
dig into some of the synth stuff. Um, so the symphony, you guys, are you playing anything coming up or anything recently that you were especially excited about? I really wanted to go see Symphony Number 9.
Yeah. Oh man.
I had to miss it,
That
unfortunately.
was a fantastic experience. And it always is. It's just it's so big, and every sort of dig into that symphony and really anything by Beethoven just uncovers so much more, just sort of thought and depth and planning. It's all just at the highest level of music making, and it's just
Hmm.
it's really cool to experience Beethoven, I think. And that was certainly um an invigorating performance. And we did, we did sort of a condensed masterwork series. um we it started a little bit later, and we almost had like a full masterwork season going. But they, like, I think they sort of scrunched in a June performance of the Beethoven Symphony, um, which is we don't usually play in June, but I'm glad we did that. And there were a lot of, like, it was just really good to get back on stage and do this again. The musicians, and this is something that I've always loved about the Asheville Symphony, is they really do put the music first. Everybody that, like, I've played in groups where people just, like, like super talented people just sort of the phoning it in. Like, I can play this in my sleep, and they can, and it's like, come on, like, all you have to do is pay attention and it works. and and everybody in the Asheville Symphony works really hard in the moment to make sure that they're putting their best foot forward. And the performances are they really have an elevated energy and sense of connection and communication because of it. And so I've always loved playing with them. And um, so being back with those people was just giant. I it just felt so good. During the pandemic, we did a few live streams with just reduced orchestra, um, and we covered a lot of fun stuff. We played The Marriage of Figaro. We had this amazing cellist from the Peabody Conservatory, Amit Peled, came and played with us, and he was unbelievable. It was so great. um, so yeah, it's a good experience.
Yeah, nice. Well, let's talk about your other groups that are going on. I guess adjacent to that is your string quartet. Or I would imagine. Is that I didn't get a chance
Yeah.
to listen to them.
Well, we don't really record ourselves.
Okay.
Putting out masterwork performance or recording, like, recordings of masterworks is a little bit daunting. Like, I'm terrified of recording the Bach suites, for example.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
I
and
spent all winter studying the cello box suites. Have
yeah,
I talked to
oh,
you
they're
about that?
so great.
Yeah, I did Stanley Yates's arrangements for classical guitar.
Okay.
Who do you know Andy Urich in town? I took some
Yeah.
lessons from him. He's a classical guitarist. And he took lessons with Stanley Yates, whose
Wow.
arrangements I was like surreptitiously happened to be using, and then Andy Urich had studied those same cello suites, and so got some really like deep work in on those. And he Andy Urich really tried to convince me to do like a whole suite, but I flaked out, and I only have like a few movements throughout the 6 suites, but
Okay.
they're
The
great.
fifth suite, and the guy that made, one of my cellos, Johannes, he's not with us anymore, but his name's David Rhodes, and he was talking about the second suite as well, how they were originally written for the lute.
Hmm.
The fifth suite is established. There's a version, a version for the lute,
Oh, okay.
But he, I think, was. I don't think it had been so clearly established for the second. I think it was just something he theorized about. It made sense. He came up with his own arrangement for it. He was a lute player as well. And they work so well for guitar. I love some of the harmonic realizations that classical guitarists do with the cello suites. And I think it sort of speaks to like what Bach was really doing with them. You know, like the Honor Bilsma is a Baroque cellist. He calls them skeletal. You know, like Bach had a bigger conception that he probably was able to realize on the organ or the lute or the violin, or maybe like he had some bigger orchestral ideas. But the cello is so limited in its expression, only being able to play like, you know, basically two notes at once. You know, three and four notes can be sort of rolled and faked simultaneously, but you can only play two notes at a time, and the notes that you can play are fairly limited in what kinds of combinations you can do compared to other string instruments, you know?
Right.
And so with those limitations, he sort of has to strip it down, his concept down to its bare bones, you know? Like, I'll put this note here and let it sound in the audience's imagination until that voice moves up to something else, you know?
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And
Can't take any note for granted.
right, right. But it so effectively communicates the, you know, like what the person that skeleton might have occupied can look like, you know. And that's something that's just so fascinating about those pieces.
Yeah, definitely. The few that I've worked on now, I trot them out at weddings, especially when I'm like solo, but also with a guitar violin duet, and have the violin play that cello part, and I'm playing just full chords behind it
Yeah,
based on the bass notes. And it is neat how it all fleshes out, and
yeah,
it sounds really nice. Some of those, some of the classical chord progressions are predictable, but I don't know. Bach is it's it's so familiar in a nice way because the influence is so profound on everything that it
hmm,
feels just so like comfortable when you're
yeah,
nailing some of that
right.
Baroque stuff.
It's very like in the ears and
Yeah.
um
So the Opal String Quartet.
right. So like recording those pieces and, you know, the string quartet versions of those amazing kinds of things, is it's been done so many times by much more experienced groups than the Opal Quartet. And so like tackling that is, I mean, tackling it even before taking that into consideration is a pretty daunting and expensive experience, um, you know, or expensive undertaking. Um, and so we usually are just a performing group rather than a recording group. And some of our things have been caught and um, set to recordings, but I have to find out where those are because some of them I think are worth hearing. Um,
I believe it.
but
Who else is in that group?
they're an amazing group. We started out, it was two other folks from Eastman that happened to come down to Asheville at the same time,
Mhm.
Amy Lovinger and Kara Poorbaugh, and we were all at the school together. And Ginger Cole was the other one, and she is also from Asheville. We played in the youth orchestra together, and just one a lifelong friend. And we all put this thing together, and we started, you know, just taking on quartets and just putting them out there. Um, and then um, Ginger left the quartet to pursue a career in entomology, and
Is that
Amy,
Bugs?
yep, it sure
Okay.
is.
Neat.
Yeah, and I mean she's an unbelievable scientist and doing some really great work right now. And every once in a while she'll pick up her fiddle and come play with us. That actually happened last last weekend for not last weekend or two ago ish for a concert for the Asheville Symphony Guild.
A fortnight ago,
A
give or
fortnight.
take.
It's, yeah, it's a fortnight ago. So that was fantastic, and we've had a couple of iterations over the years since Ginger and Amy left, and the current lineup is with the violinist Karen Pomerick, and Maria Potapova, who are Asheville Symphony regulars and extraordinary musicians. And Kara Porba is still playing viola in the quartet. So this we're going on 20 years of playing in that quartet together, and a
Wow.
couple coming up. I think we're at 20. We're at 18 now.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
our
huge though.
our time with the quartet is old enough to vote.
I was about to say, yeah, you could go to war.
Yep.
But you can't drink.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. We do anyway, but
Right. Well, hopefully not before the performance.
oh no, 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 no.
Yeah,
Afterwards.
I can't do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in really any role, I get too sloppy. Even at like a jazz show or something. I gotta behave myself.
Yeah.
Um so where do you guys play shows primarily?
We play around. We've played. We did a performance one time at Bobo's, a Philip Glass quartet. We played in the
Oh,
Asheville
cool.
Art Museum. We've played at UNC Asheville, both at the Reuters Center and on the stage. Um, we,
Lipinski?
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it's just we lots of different sort of art museums and churches and whatever venues will are seem like a good fit, like
Yeah, that's cool. I'm the only thing similar to that I'm a part of, that sort of classical circuit, is the Celtic service at the
yeah,
Episcopal Church. Do
yeah,
you do
yeah, I
that?
do.
Yeah, I love that
It's a
environment.
great room. Oh my gosh, that room.
Yeah,
And everybody there is so sweet too.
totally.
It's a
Sharon
good thing.
Boone.
Yep,
Yeah, she's a great organizer.
yep.
Really
Wonderful
nice.
musician. It's so much fun to listen to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Um, cool. All right, well, let's keep going down the list, shall we?
Sure.
What else we got?
Um,
Upland Drive or Sirius B? I'll leave it up to you. What do you
let's
want to talk
start. Let's
about?
start with Sirius B. Amy, the violinist in the quartet, um, what started playing with them first, and she was like, "You've gotta come in and jam with us. This would be. I think this is right up your alley." And
It is cool, can I say? And it's like sort of a. I checked him out. I knew Ryan Kajenka back in the day, so I think I
okay,
checked him out. Um, like this band's pretty old at this point, right? A
yeah,
few
I
years
I
ago.
joined them in 2009,
Wow. Okay.
and they
Really
went
old.
back before that.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I remember, like, after Amy had prodded me a couple of times about it, I finally went to go see them at Jack of the Wood, and I remember just thinking, like, I've never heard a sound like this.
Yeah,
It was
it's like
so,
punk, but it's not really punk. It's like klezmery, but not
yeah,
really.
it's got a lot of different, very agreeable influences, and it had a very kind of it had a sound that was very much their own, and I liked all of that stuff, and it's the style seemed to fit what I wanted to do when we finally did sit down to play together. I was like, this is just feels like I'm like surfing on this giant wave everybody's kind of making. It's great. And so yeah, it was a fantastic fit, and it's been a pretty wild ride. I recorded 3 albums with them. Um, did a lot of work, did a little bit of work writing on one of them, and a lot of work writing on another. And I've learned how to sing and play with them. Like, I do backup vocals with them as well, and that was a
As you're
that was
bowing.
a skill that I kind of developed with them, and that was cool. It was like, as I sort of got comfortable playing cello, it was like, oh, I can probably sing on this while I'm like doing something easy, and then I got to start doing more things and it had a kind of natural development to it.
An opportunity. I mean, that it does. It's like a joyous. There's a lot of rejoicing, I feel like, in that music.
hmm
Sort of that would call like that would encourage you to call out,
Yeah,
like be part of it.
it's very upbeat energy and very celebratory. Um, it really is fun. Playing with them is fun. Hanging out with them is fun. Playing with them for other people is really fun. Because everybody just seems to engage it and get into it and connect with us, which is a really fun thing to watch. Older gigs that we used to play, um, there wouldn't be a stage, so we'd be right there on the floor with everybody. Um, and there's like a couple of those. Like I remember a wedding where a frontman just sort of had the whole crowd, the whole group of them just kind of eating out of his hand. It was
Nice.
they were having such a good time, and it's just when they're right there with you, it's a really cool thing. It's a little crazy to think about right now coming out of the pandemic. It's like, oh nope, I want a stage.
Right.
But that's something that I sorely miss. Um, you know, just having like the microphone and the monitor between you and the rest of the folks. It can be a little dangerous, if they're slopping beer around. You don't want to bring your nice equipment out there, but
Right. Of
but
course.
it's a really like raw, amazing connection. Um,
Yeah.
and
An
up,
electric connection,
yeah,
if you
yeah,
will.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Upland Drive, sort of came out of Sirius B in the sense that as I started to write songs on my own for, but the original intention was just to take them to Sirius B, and that for those songs they'd get a like, hey, this is a great song, but this is not like our style. We're not going to play this song, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I wrote enough to start my own project. And um, it started out with C. Scott Shaw and Ryan Kajanka and Aaron Keith. He had the other half of the original music, and we sort of combined our forces to try and make this thing go. Um, and myself, and it's gone through a lot of things. We've got a show coming up on August 7th, and we've added over the years we've added a vocalist, Davida Haas, and C. Scott and Brian have left, but Craig Kelberg and Walker Aston usually play bass with us now. They sort of switch off depending on their availability, and the the core of it is basically just me and Davida singing right now. And we're looking for sort of a more solidified group, and I'm excited about this show because we're trying out new players. It's our first like in-person show since the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We tried doing a couple of live streams, but it started to get really crowded there, and we were just like, nah. And so now we're doing this show with Davida and with Craig and with Casey Horton on viola and with Cynthia McDermott on electric mandolin,
Okay.
and that's gonna be fun. I'm getting excited. We're about a month away, and I'm like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, that's cool. Tell me about that process. So you've written these songs, and with cello, I feel like, or I guess maybe I should ask how you are writing these songs, because I usually think of chords and singing, right? Or like, so
Right.
are you thinking about like bass and singing, like sort of contrapuntally, or like, the not the bass instrument, but
Yes. Like it sort of depends on the song. It might be a melody idea that the lyrics and chords get formed around, or it might be a chordal idea that sort of starts and everything sort of sets from there. It might be sort of a rhythmic motive. It might be the lyrics themselves. Like I think there's a couple of times where like a hook popped into my head and I'm like, that's a song, let's build on that.
yeah,
um
definitely. So then would you flesh it out to a certain extent, I guess, but then with these new players, are they sort of improving, like free improving over everything, and do you rehearse that a few times and
yes,
tell them like, hey, not
it's
during this part, but
it's rare that I mean, I guess what I try to do, and the cool thing about playing with different folks, I try to do that with most shows. It's like have a rotating lead come in and out of it, because it does change the song in a lot of ways depending on the person who's playing with us and what they bring to it, and that gives us a lot of variety in our presentation and the personal experience, so it doesn't get kind of old.
Yeah.
But I try not to um I try not to dictate too much, almost to a fault, I think. Where, to sort of let the song change. There's some like hardline things, like this is a melody spot, and there might be a thing. Usually, when something's not working, we all kind of already know it. They're already trying something else. Um,
Hmm.
but most of the time it's like, okay, this is the thing that everybody's listening to, and that usually ends up being pretty obvious, hopefully, and everybody seems to have a really good instinct around how to support that, or how to sort of take that and contribute something functional. um, and that's a fun experience. I feel like with this one we're trying to um, like I'm trying to be a little bit more organized with it. So it's like, the charts, basically like the things that are kind of there are some scripted parts instrumentally. And so those things are like written out. And then,
And for an ambiguous lead and
right,
whatever bassist is
it's like,
of it.
this
Yeah.
is this is the part, and there's time for us to learn it, or they can get the chart and learn it off the chart.
Hmm.
And then it's like, and then the rest of it's just kind of like, you know how you'd see a comping chart. Basically, it's kind of open. You sort of find the feel and jump into it, you know.
Yeah.
um
That's
yeah,
cool. The lyrics are very heartfelt. Of vulnerability and opening up.
yeah,
That
yeah, yeah,
song I think was really, um, uh, I don't know, just foundational. It
yeah.
was really compassionate. I liked that.
Thanks.
Hmm.
I um i like to to do different things with songs. Like, there's one that's a little bit more on the angry side, and so the chord progression it has an obsessiveness to it. It's like just the same thing over and over again. It doesn't modulate, it doesn't have a bridge or anything like that. Another song's in sonata form, where the chorus modulates and then doesn't at the end. And another one is like, there's the bridge kind of splits a verse in half. Just different ways to kind of play with forms and structures, and what things can do without necessarily removing the accessible sound factors. And
Yeah.
um,
Got to consider the audience a little bit, I guess.
well, yeah, and it's part of like my enjoyment of it as well. Like, um, sometimes, like, I can go to a show and find myself sort of stomaching through a lot of like I remember this one modern concert I went to, where like there were like four people, and one was playing with like a transistor radio, and somebody had a flute, somebody had a violin, and there was somebody else sort of sitting cross-legged in the middle with some balloons in front of her and a microphone, and she would like rub the balloon under the microphone, and like leaned over into him and went like,
Yeah, that's right up my
and
alley, dude. I'm loving it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And like there were a lot of cool things about it. And these are like some of my favorite musicians. And I remember sitting there and just going like, I'm not in a place, I'm not in the headspace for this right now. I don't know why I'm here. Like, I just could not get to a place where I could like really appreciate it in that moment. I was like my impatient college person.
Sometimes it can be a time and place sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or the performers, or just the context of it. Like, why are you here at that given time?
right.
I saw a Philip Glass performance recently that was less than inspired, and I won't say where it was, or even what town it was in. But man, sitting through some like you were saying, some like I could play this in my sleep,
Yeah. Yeah.
unengaged Philip Glass. That was like a pretty
Yeah.
tough experience.
I wonder if if there was anything to like not phone in, but like that was one thing that we were challenged to do when we were playing Philip Glass was remove expression. So it was very like like the whole like minimalism concept is to, and I really felt that intention from that piece particularly was that there wasn't a lot of ebb and flow in the expression. The music was just kind of this block of like Steve Reich's phase music.
Yeah.
Like it's just like a little snippet of something, and it's like over and over and over again, and then there's a tape that's copied against it that's just moving. It's at a slightly slower speed. So like after a while it starts to sound reverby, and then it sounds really blurry, and then it finds itself in a cross rhythm, and it sort of keeps doing that until it winds itself back around, and he'll add a couple to it and all that kind of stuff. And it's an amazing concept, but there's no there's no like expression. I mean, you could put it in there if you wanted to. I remember seeing a group of people trying to do phase music live outside on 4 different instruments, and
Yikes.
it was cool. It was so cool. Like organic phase music is like that's nuts. But like in the tape, from a tape perspective, it's all just like pre-recorded, and it's not that it's missing expression, but like
That's
the
not the
same
point.
loop is expressed the same way every time, you know, and that kind of gets at the Philip Glass thing too. It's like you're gonna play this thing, you're gonna play it exactly the same way. It's almost mechanical. Like Einstein on the Beach is like a chorus of people counting at the very same dynamic for a long ass time.
Oh, yeah. I put that on and tried to do some work one day, and I don't know what I was thinking. Just to try to go insane in the background as like trying to like respond to emails. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a mistake.
There's another Steve Reich one that I really like was Electric Counterpoint. There's a great recording by Pat Metheny of that piece, and it's a lot more playful. It's like it sort of gets out of the concept and starts to apply it to something that's a little bit more like geared towards attractive art.
Yeah, I mean, because Steve Reich, he's a percussionist and he has that background in rhythm and like inventive, like
Yeah.
rhythmic stuff and the mallet instruments, and some of those compositions are really like almost tribal or like
Hmm.
really like neat, deep,
Yeah.
in the psyche. But then some of them, the depth isn't the point, like you're saying. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So so Upland Drive is pretty Philip Glassy and Steve
It's
Reich.
well, no, well,
Oh,
it's sort of what is it?
experimental with form, I think, is how we got into that.
It's rock music, I think. It's really it's not like it's not it's rock pop, whatever whatever it lands on. There's some songs that sort of lean a little bit more in like a funky direction, and there's some songs that lean a little bit more into like a alt rock 90s direction, and like it just sort of depends on what it is. But I think it just sort of starts with something accessible and tries to do something fun with it, if that makes sense. I always have a hard time sort of explaining what Upland Drive is. Um,
Where's the name from?
the name is from our it's from one of our old band members. It's a variation on their street, on their original street. And yeah, we that was another thing we all struggled with was finding a name, and that one felt good.
That's a tough. I ended up with Irvin Music Studio.
There you go.
It's tough to find the name.
That's a great name.
It worked out, yeah. Uh, but now I lose my identity in my business. There's no work-life balance, so there's a
Yeah.
give and take.
Yeah.
Um, Upland sounds like a cool place though. Like
I think
ups, like a
so.
positive place.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very it has intention and direction and forward momentum in the name. That's something that we really liked about it.
definitely. Drive, like a
Hmm.
drive pedal, or like
Drive
ambition.
pedal, taking a drive, ambition.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's multifaceted. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I learned, or I thought about, I listened to Incubus's Make Yourself recently.
Right.
Have
That's a
you?
good album.
That's such a good album.
Yeah.
And upon this upon listening again, I realized that that's a double entendre in a way, because he's talking about, I always thought about that he was saying, make yourself, like create yourself, like
Yeah.
be who you want to be. But there's like a lot of sobriety language in the album too, and
Mm.
discipline language, and it's like make yourself,
Yeah.
like force yourself to do the thing.
Right.
Brilliant album title, and
Yeah.
it took me like 2 decades to pick up on the subtlety of that.
I was this many when I heard it that way.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic.
Let's see. Well, it's 8:51.
Okay.
So why don't we take a little break and get set up to jam? Are there any hanging threads though? Where is your show on August 7th?
August 7th is at Sierra Nevada Brewing.
Okay, cool.
And Series B is playing on September 2nd at the Orange Peel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're going to have the J. Lloyd mashup do the show with us, and this should be really fun.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So some dates to look forward to, everybody. And you are Franklin Keel,
I am Franklin Keel.
and I am Sam Irvin, currently resetting the 8 to 10 weekly Wednesday live stream at Irvin Music Studio. And for the Instagram viewers, if there are any, this is the end of that video, and I'm gonna pause the other stream for us to get set up. So we will be right back. Thanks for being here, by the
Yeah,
way.
thank you.
So. Yeah, that gives it a lot more presence with all the effects and stuff going on.
Cool.
I love that reverb pedal.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I want to talk about those more, but let's play. I think I'd like to play some guitar with you for a moment. I think we'll stick with we should be able to hear the mixing.
Oh, okay.
You're saying you can, and that the guitar's a lot loud. It's not even in my mix.
It's probably just in my. It might just be in my headset.
Yeah. nice. All right, what are you feeling? Do you want to get more funky? Or jazzy? Give me an adjective. All right, you know what? I'm sorry, I got very obviously distracted just there. Yeah. I want to make sure that the sound is coming through on the video. Cool. So let me go check that monitor real quick.
All right.
Hmm. That's weird. It's like I sensed it. It was coming through. Now. That's awesome. But yeah.
Say what?
Somebody texted me and said the cello is very low. So
Okay.
even though you're high in our mix,
I'm gonna turn the volume up a little bit more.
all right. Thanks, Zach, for letting us know that the cello was not audible. Let's see how we're sounding now. No. Let's have you instead.
There's the feedback. That's you playing There it is.
Let me turn it up a little bit so I can thank you for being here.
Oh,
Yes.
thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here, Franklin. That was
sir.
a true pleasure.
It
Definitely.
was. Likewise.
Love to experiment, and man, you got some skills, you got some tones. I should have you back on, and we should just do the interview with your whole gear
Yeah.
setup here.
Gear in the making.
Gear demo. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
And
yeah. Thanks all for watching.
yeah, thanks for I'm not even thank you for for being here. Next week, I think where's my phone? I'll tell you who's on next week. Next week it's Melanie Chopko. All right, I'll see her and everybody else then.